you would never call them heretics or wolf in sheep's clothing, right? And I think we don't see that enough in terms of engaging with folks that are a bit more charismatic, that it's always they're heretics, they're false teachers, they're wolves in sheep's clothing, that the tongues are pagan. Like I remember reading John MacArthur's study Bible commentary, and he reading through 1 Corinthians, and he's like, yeah, this was a pagan thing, it's demonic. And I'm just like how is this so wild? But in your video regarding Bethel, you were extremely gracious in not questioning their salvation, and not questioning and not calling them heretics and false teachers, which is always thrown around loosely about everybody. This person's a heretic. It's always about a secondary issue. This person's a heretic, this person's a false teacher, this person's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
I get called that all the time.
That's hilarious that you would get called that. So in terms of secondary issues, the charismatic side, you believe in the gifts of the Spirit, right? I believe in the gifts. I call myself charismatic.
They name the name of Christ. They've got the essentials of the faith. For the most part, they do. Even
Yes.
Bethel, I didn't see a false gospel in Bethel's teaching.
I refuse to create a theology that allows for sickness. So here's this realm of the miraculous that is waiting for the stewardship of the knowledge of God put into decrees that are proclaimed over each other.
So let me back this up a little bit here, because he's preaching a false gospel by saying these words.
And interpreted by many as disease, allowed or brought on by God. That's a different gospel.
No, it's not. Paul told Timothy to take wine for his frequent ailments.
Jesus didn't model it.
Jesus did not heal everybody who came to him. Mark 1 is very clear on that.
He didn't teach it. And Paul said, you can't change the standard.
The standard is not that Christians always get healed. That's not biblical, nor is it in line with even reality.
They name the name of Christ. They've got the essentials of the faith. For the most part, they do. Even
Yes.
Bethel, I didn't see a false gospel in Bethel's teaching, not that I'm
Yes.
aware of. I listened to prepare for that message. I listened to 60 hours of Bill Johnson's teachings. Okay, I did not hear a false gospel when he rarely spoke of the gospel, and it was rare. It was sad how rare it was. But when he spoke of it, he spoke of the true gospel.
I refuse to create a theology that allows for sickness.
The mom, and Angela, who I've known for years, decades, was like, hey, have you ever spoken in tongues? And I was like, no. And she was like, well, like, come on, And I was like, what are you talking about? And so she's like, stand up. And we were in the middle of a Bible study. So I stood up and she started praying for me. And then Andrew, her son, walks up behind me with a pillow. And I'm like, stop it. Like, stop. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking. And Mike, she full on prayed for me, and it was the weirdest thing ever, and laid hands on me, and my body went stiff, and I full on passed out, and she put her hand on my face, and she said, speak, child. And I prayed in tongues, and the same exact time, it was as real as ever. My buddy it didn't happen for him. He was like, he didn't even fall over. I full on fell over. It was super. And after that moment, something clicked, something shifted in my consciousness of sin, hearing from God in a different way, not like an audible voice of God. Some of you guys are gonna be like, you hear no audible voice. No, it wasn't like an audible voice, but there was something different after that moment. And I've prayed in tongues after. It's not something I regularly do, but so that's why in my situation, and I don't know how many baptisms there are. I mean, you're saying there's two, I don't know. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and I spoke in tongues, and all of a sudden, I it was bizarre. It was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me, but it was definitely real, and it was definitely something that was a pivotal change. But like, my wife has never spoken in tongues. I don't think she's a JV Christian because she's never spoken in tongues. Some of my best friends who are an incredible JV Christian. That's how they frame it, is like, yeah, if you don't speak in tongues, you're kind of a JV Christian, right? Like, you don't have the full gospel or the full.
Let me just
baptism.
say this: I believe your story. I don't have a theological reason why I can't believe your story. I'm slightly disposed to think that, like, shaking and losing control and pulse, like weird spazzy type behavior, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be consistent with the work of the Spirit. The whole slain in the Spirit thing, like passing out, that kind of thing, I admittedly go, that seems a little strange to me, but it doesn't mean that it therefore is something God can't do. Okay. So I hear your story and I go, I don't have a good enough reason to just discount everything you've said. I'm going to trust that. I've spoken in tongues, not with interpretation, but in a way that was very powerful in my life and very needful in the moment, with real spiritual blessing and benefit that happened right then at the time.
I don't think the Ten Commandments are binding for Christians.